You guys thought I was sad. I'm not sad. I'm good. Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. Let me get my volume up because I know I didn't hook that up. Bam. Maligayong pagdating sa my chess, ladies and gentlemen. Maraming salamat, aking makaibigan. Mabuhay to you guys, everybody that is coming from the Philippines. So I do have Wesley So versus Fabiano Caruana. It's always a pretty nice matchup. You know, both former U.S. champions. You know, rated the top couple in the world. You know, here Wesley So, you know, he was like arguing Maurice Ashley. He was like, nah, Fabiano's number 2. Anyways, this is the round 6 game between Wesley So and Fabiano Caruana. So, for my people in the Philippines, I really appreciate you coming by. Masaya Akong Makita Kang Muli. Appreciate you guys for stopping by. Magandang umaga, magandang hapon. For my guy down here in Texas, magandang gabi. You know, good night to you, sweet dreams. But let's go ahead and get rolling and see what we got. So we got E4, E5, knight comes to F3, knight to C6. We got bishop to C4, bishop to C5, D3, H6, C3. So, yes, again, we do have the Giuoco Pianissimo, you know, starting from the Giuoco piano. But, like I always say, these games are rarely quiet. They're usually pretty loud. We see knight to F6. And we have B4, and so the bishop decides to go back to E7 this one. We have castles by white, castles by black. Rook comes to E1. We see D6. We got A4, and then we have knight back to B8. And knight back to B8 is just anticipating there's going to be a B5 push. So we actually see bishop back to B3. You know, with thoughts of possibly bringing the bishop back here to C2. Now in this position, actually, instead of backing the bishop up, A5 was actually really nice, just gaining some more space. And, you know, black is going to want to play A6. Then after H3 comes, knight comes to C6, and then you have queen to B3. And as you can see, this is actually very aggressive for white. You know, you got a lot of pressure on this diagonal, you know, on this F7 square. But like I said, we saw bishop back to B3. We see C6. And then knight B to D2 comes, and this is the novelty of the game. Now, actually 2 years ago, there was a game, David Navarro versus Wesley So, and so we actually saw H3 in that game. And you know, H3 is pretty much going to come like no matter like what moves you're playing, usually, you know, just to create like a little space for the king and stuff like that. But you know, we did see knight B to D2, which is, you know, it's a usual move in this type of an opening. We do have A5, and that's one of the things that if, you know, white would have played A5 themselves, they wouldn't really be worried about A5 coming, because this is definitely trying to break up white's structure. And I mean, white just has too much space on that side of the board. So we got B5, knight B to D7. We have D4, pawn takes B5, pawn takes B5, pawn takes D4, pawn takes D4, and then knight comes to B6. And as you guys can see, you know, white has a considerable amount of space. You know, these pawns are doing a really good job of like protecting and taking care of all of these squares. So it's just, I mean, it just looks really good for white. We have bishop to A3. We have A4 backing the bishop up. Bishop comes back to C2. We see bishop to E6. Now we see H3. But I mean, it kind of seemed like black was never really intending on, you know, putting anything on G4. But like I said, H3 does create some space for your king. We have D5, and then we have E5. So knight comes to H5, and then we actually see G3. And in the position, we see bishop takes A3, rook takes A3, and then we see queen to E7. Some of you guys might be wondering, you know, well, like, what about this pawn, though? I mean, it kind of looks like it's just a pawn. It actually is. I'm not sure why Fabiano Caruana didn't just take. If we don't play queen to E7, bishop takes H3 is actually the most suggested move. And like I said, it's just a pawn. Like, there's no type of tricks in the position. You know, knight would probably come back to F1. We'd see queen to D7, knight to E3. Queen taking B5. Okay, no. This is the position that you want to have. If you're in this position, you have to be very careful not to take with B5. But like I said, this is just a pawn. You know, black is just up a pawn. Now, of course, if you do take queen takes B5, you're going to be looking at knight to G5. And not only are you discovering an attack on this knight, if you do happen to take here, it's going to be really kind of hard to prevent checkmate here. You know, something like this. Because this bishop is, you know, kind of hanging, right? So that's pretty much why you wouldn't go into do that. That's why I was trying to talk about it separately. But like I said, when you back up and you're in this position here, I mean, this is just extra solid for black. you don't really have any compensation for losing a pawn. So for some reason, I guess Fabiano was like calculating something in his mind and he didn't really like it. So he went queen to e7. We see rook e to e3. And then we have rook f to c8. Now in this position, it would be actually slightly different if you did accept the pawn on h3. Knight would come down to e1. We'd see g6 protecting the knight. And this is the main problem with the position, is the knight doesn't really have anywhere to go. G4, and then knight would come to f4, and then you'd actually be sacrificing the exchange. Rook takes h3, knight takes h3, rook takes a3. But as you guys can see, you're up an entire piece. So that is why it's just a little bit different. But like I said, we did see rook. We have queen to e7, rook e to e3. We see rook f to c8. And we see knight to h4. And then we have g6. You know, like I said before, I mean, we do have a discovery attack on this knight, and the knight, you know, at the moment doesn't really have anywhere to go. So, you know, you kind of have to protect it a little bit. So we have actually reached a position in the game that if you do want to pause the video and try and guess what Wesley So plays in this position, go ahead and do so. Okay, so this is actually an unfortunate position. Because Wesley So like completely blunders like the entire game with this move. You know, some of you guys might be thinking like knight takes g6, and then you got like some bishop situations, or maybe bishop takes, and then you kind of have this little situation going on. And, you know, knight would back up, and you know, you might seem like you have a little bit of compensation, but you know, I'm not sure how many of you guys might be looking at this f5 square. Now, there's two different pieces that you can actually place on f5. We'll start with like the considerably better move, which is bishop to f5. This would actually be like, you know, actually it's still won by black, but you know, it's just not as crazy. You know, you probably would have pawn takes f5, queen would take h5, rook down to c1 would check, king come to g2. At least, I mean, it has a little bit of a competitive edge to it. So, you know, if you did pick bishop to f5, that would actually be good. And it was actually suggested that you don't actually take the bishop on f5. But like I said, black is definitely still winning this position. You know, just a little bit of an advantage. But unfortunately, Wesley So actually goes, he goes knight to f5. And like this just completely blunders the piece. And you don't have the ability to regain it. Because after the pawn takes here, you know, unfortunately, when you take the knight on h5, you actually just hung your bishop. So you just lose an entire piece in the scenario. Now, if your bishop was not on c2, it was like on c1 or like a2 or even the d3 or something like that, then it actually wouldn't have blundered the piece. And I'm not sure, like, if Wesley So, like, if he missed that, or I mean, if he was thinking about something else, like, I don't know, maybe he was thinking about like bishop takes and then bishop takes, and like maybe this was what he was seeing. I mean, this is, you know, this is actually like good. You know, this is actually like a legitimate position, but I just don't think he was calculating like if pawn actually takes. And he must have just overlooked something. I'm not sure what the situation was, but you know, it's been a really long time since Wesley So has blundered a piece like that. He's played so many online tournaments, so many over the board tournaments, so I'm not really sure. And I mean, everybody that was commentating was kind of like, I don't know. I mean, even Fabi was like, he was really thinking that I missed something. Like, did I overlook something? But nah, he didn't miss anything. So that's unfortunate. And I didn't actually look at this to see if this was like really anything. But I think after knight comes back to G7. Actually, no, we don't do that. Probably that. You are protecting this this knight. That's kind of what it seems like you have here. And then you just have the ability just to, you know, I guess, man, I don't know what you would do here, actually. Probably something, no, not even that. Maybe that. I don't know. I'm not even sure. Like I said, I didn't look into it. But that was just, that was unfortunate that there was that little small detail in the position that basically made it just be completely lost after knight to f5. So he went knight to f5. Fabiano Caruana did take the knight on f5, and then Wesley So sat there for a little bit, and then he just resigned the game. He shook hands and resigned the game. So, yeah, that's unfortunate. It's kind of been, I guess, a little rough tournament for Wesley So. I guess you can't win them all type deal, but we will see what happens tomorrow. You know, maybe he'll bounce back and stuff. So we will see. But yes, for all my people in the Philippines, I'm gonna get these good mornings real quick, and then I'm gonna step off. I have maayong buntag, mayad na agahan, naibeg na bigat, masantos ya kabasan, marhe na aga, buenos dias, maayong aga, mapian na uma, kapian kapuno dias, yeah, kapian kapuno dios, mayap abak, mayad na aga, mapia agay, mapia kapa pizza, my big abukla, marja na buntag, maria my nat, malpe na aga, kasan yangan si ilabi. Assalamu alaikum, salam, merci to you guys. I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. Maraming salamat aking makaibigan. Makita tayo mamaya and paalam, and I will see you guys next time.